Hello, folks. This is part 11 of learning Rust from scratch, and I am actually over here in reading the Rust book, the Rust programming language book, the official book, the latest version, and I'm actually reading it from my local machine because I've noticed that sometimes my internet is dying off because there's a power cut at times. So whenever there's a power cut, load shedding, I think I can just use this. You can just type in Rust up, and then you can actually find the book over here, like this. For example, if you are new to Rust, consider running Rust up doc book, and you can actually see that open the documentation for the current toolchain. So you can just say doc, and it will open up the Rust documentation, and you can also go check out the book. There is Rust by example also, which is available, right? And pretty cool stuff. I don't know if it runs the code locally or um, it runs it remotely. So yeah, and what else? You can undo your change. You can change things here, and you can undo changes. Right? If you change something, you can just undo the changes and not. And what else? So there's also the Rustlings, Rust Playground, and so using the Rust, so search through standard library, you can just search, I don't know, std, and it searches through it locally, as you can see over here. And what else? You can actually say rand and actually do a search on rand on this standard, like all crates. So this is looking at in names. So yeah, and you can also see that the book comes up. So here you can actually notice that you can open the documentation by default, or you can open the book or the cargo documentation, Flippy documentation, which is one of the libraries, I think, and then core library, edition guide, um, embedded book, and more things, right? So there's also the unstable book and whatnot, so style guide and whatnot, right? So if you want, you can just open up, say, Flippy, for example, and this is the Flippy documentation. And let's say you open up the edition guide to understand the editions. So what editions are, what which changes are contained in each edition and whatnot. Um, so you can read through this, and yeah, I mean everything's over here, and you can also just open up the main thing, and from there you can go and check it out. So now I just want to check out some Rust repositories on GitHub or anywhere. So I recently noticed that Valkey, which is actually the fork of Redis, open source fork of Redis, is basically creating extensions or basically modules or plugins using Rust. So here you can see this is using Rust. So for example, Valkey Bloom is using Rust, and then they also have a Rust Valkey SDK for modules for Valkey modules. So this is also in Rust. So this is actually a fork of apparently Redis module RS, which is a Rust based API for Redis modules API. So it's pretty cool. So it has Rust and C code, and something similar is over here. And also, I think you can look at repositories from companies like Ferris Systems, which is actually pretty popular, I think, in the Rust ecosystem because they actually maintain the Rust Analyzer project, for example, which is actually the project which helps you with integrated development environment help. That is Rust Analyzer is actually the Rust language server, which implements a like language server protocol, and it has extensions in Visual Studio Code, VS Code, and many other editors. So you can actually check out their open source, and you'll notice that they are in Rust Analyzers. They are the team lead and maintainers. Um, so yeah, and they also have many other projects, right? Around Raspberry Pi, embedded, and other stuff, right? Infrastructure stuff also. So and they also have stuff related to hardware and debugging. So yeah, so they are great. And what else? I was looking at Google's thing, Google's repository, and I noticed that they also have some Rust. So you can actually see if I Rust. Oops. Let me just see language. If I go and select Rust, you can actually see they have some 88 repositories in Rust. For example, they have a Rust course, and then Chrome OS, virtual machine monitor, and whatnot. And they also have something called Google Test Rust, which is actually a unit testing library apparently based on the C++ testing library at Google called Google Test. So pretty cool stuff. And actually, Google is the company that brought in Golang. So even in Golang, they have a lot of interesting projects. They have some 286 projects, and some of them seem pretty interesting. For example, I noticed this thing called Trillion, which is actually a transparent and highly scalable and cryptographically verifiable data store. Something to check out. Maybe I can, rewrite this in, say, Rust. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, the next generation of transparency laws uses style APIs and are better supported by Trillium Tessera. So looks like community contributions to Trillium are still welcome, but please file an issue and are staying by the Slack post for discussions. Uses styled APIs and are better supported. Okay. And building tile-based transparency laws. Not sure what these are. Is the logical successor to the first trillion event takes in building and operating logs. So you can actually see stuff around this over here. Um, cool. So interesting stuff. So the files contaminated something about Merkle trees and instead of serving consistency and inclusion proofs for arbitrary entries or arrays logs serve as cool. So cover non premises. Okay. And so I just kind of got distracted a bit, but these are pretty cool stuff. And yeah, so here I am. I'll probably continue in the next video to talk about what I'm learning over here. And I'll just read through and try to understand and learn along with you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.